Good evening, it's detective time again, for real. There's no fiction, the drama is authentic and you can participate in changing the plot. All you have to do is watch. And remember our phone number, 0500 600 600. It's a free call number to us live here in the studio.
First, you may have noticed there's been a wave of attacks on train passengers in the southeast of England, at least half a dozen so far this year. Yet all the episodes appear to be unrelated. In some cases, there have been arrests. We've already appealed on two of them, the Czech student left for dead in a toilet on a train from Hastings to London, and a boy molested between Eastbourne and Victoria. On the second case, a man has now been charged. Tonight, we're asking for help with one of the attacks that is still unsolved, and it's perhaps one of the worst of these crimes. A month ago, during their half-term, three boys, all primary school children, went on a train journey from their home near Brighton, just for the fun of the ride. Well, when they got to Lewes, they thought they ought to go home, and they asked someone fitting the description of this man which train to take. He shepherded them onto one going in the wrong direction, the 1754 from Brighton to Hastings, which left Lewes at 6:09. He terrified the boys into getting off the train at Blind. Then he took them to nearby toilets where he indecently assaulted all three of them. Shortly after, the group returned to the station and one of the boys was raped. Well, DI Ron Wayner wants help to find the man responsible. Ron, this is a tragic end to what was a half-term adventure for those boys.
This is a horrific and awful incident. The three young children, who were just 11, 8 and 6-year-old, got lost, couldn't find their way home, and they went to a man, what any sensible child would do, to seek help.
Now, we've seen some of that video footage, a man spotlighted there. You've got two parts of video which you actually want to show tonight, taken at separate times of the day, but they're both significant. Why?
The first part of the clip that we're going to see is really important to us, because that's at the time that the boys were at the station, and they described that man. The second clip is also of interest to us in case it's related to the first man, and we'd seek to identify both of those men to eliminate them from this inquiry.
Now, the first one was at about 6 o'clock at Lewes Station in the evening, and the second one was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Lewes Station. Now, the first sighting, what description do we generally have of the attacker?
Well, we know he's a white man, perhaps 25 years old, 5'4" tall or taller. What is quite interesting that the children say that he had spots about the face and over the forehead, and he had short, gingery hair that was quite short and shaved at the sides.
And what was he wearing?
We know that he was wearing a blue jacket, possibly a green jumper underneath, wearing blue trousers, and we know that he was wearing white trainers.
Did he give any indication as to his identity to these boys?
Well, yes, when he was speaking to the kids, he said that his name was Jay, and he was 25 years old. Now, that may, of course, be untrue. He also spoke of his interest of the railway, so perhaps he may be a railway enthusiast.
Now, he did take them along part of a railway track, and I believe that he was equally violent then, wasn't he?
That's right. There was a stage at Blind Station when he picked all three children up, starting with the 6-year-old, physically picked them up, walked over to the running rails, shook the child violently over the track.
Now, and he also had a gun?
Yes, again, later on in the journey, he actually showed the 11-year-old child a firearm. It's been described as a black firearm, about 6 inches barrel.
Now, you're obviously appealing for witnesses, and I think there were one or two significant ones on the train that day.
Certainly. We know that on the return journey back from Glyde to Morscombe, there was a male passenger just outside the first class compartment, and these kids appealed for help to that man. Now, for whatever reason, the man decided that he couldn't help those children. The man could have been disabled, could have thought it was an ambush. But he's got an opportunity to help those children today by contacting us here at Crimewatch.
Ron Wayner, thank you very much. And there is a substantial reward offered here by the rail company. This was a terrible ordeal. Even if it's only a suspicion you have, don't take the chance of another child being put through this. 0500 600 600 is the number to call, or call the incident room where detectives are waiting by the phone on 0171 387 0354. That's 0171 387 0354.
Some people think it's wrong to grass, to shop someone or to turn them in, but crimes like that last one are an exception. And almost everyone draws the line at men who offend against the elderly. So far as is known, what we're reconstructing now is an isolated offence. It's a single incident. It happened in Woodingdean in Sussex one afternoon 6 weeks ago. But police and prison officers watching around the country may find they can link it to other crimes elsewhere.
I've lived in Woodingdean since 1947. I like to still feel I'm capable of doing everything I did when I first came here. I do my housework, cook for myself, and in the better weather, keep 3/4 of an acre of garden tidy. I've got wonderful neighbours. But I don't want to think I'm a burden to them.
I was on my way to catch a bus to go into Brighton. And I saw a car parked on the opposite side of the road with the bonnet up. And as I passed the end of my neighbour's garden, I saw a man walking along the garden path. I'm always a little apprehensive when I see somebody I don't recognise going into my neighbour's house. So alarm bells ring a little bit.
Hello, love. Could you spare some water? My car's broken down.
Yes, of course. Thanks. Won't be a minute.
I thought, well, poor chap, he's stranded on a nasty day like this, and just a drop of water wouldn't hurt for me to give it to him.
I'm sorry. I haven't got a bucket.
Oh,
Would have been so much easier for you.
My kettle was practically new, and I thought, oh goodness, I hope he brings the kettle back.
As I looked back, I saw the man come across the road carrying a jug, and I immediately assumed that he was going to top up the radiator in his car. So I was really reassured by this.
Just a minute. Oh, thank you. Oh.
He was so quick, he didn't give me time to think. That's when he'd quickly turned round and put his hands round my throat. If I'd have been stronger, I'd have given him a jolly good kick.
Where's your money then?
I haven't got any money.
You've got your pension.
Oh, I've only got £20 shopping money, and my friend gets my pension tomorrow. Oh.
If you scream, you'll get this.
But I thought that was the finish. I thought he'd stab me the way he threatened to if I didn't stop shouting. And I think he would have. He just broke the flex like a piece of cotton. He was such a brutal kind of man. He struck me as being youngish, 28. He was roughly 6 foot tall, very clean shaven, fresh complexioned. And his hair was fair, but it was very close shaven. Just an ordinary London accent.
Where's the money then?
On the easy work. Oh.
I waited at the bus stop for 5 minutes or so and came to the conclusion that the bus wasn't going to come. So I decided to walk back to the main road and try and catch a bus there.
Where's the money? Where is it?
That's it. Haven't got any more.
The car he was driving was a small metallic silver hatchback, probably a Honda Civic, about 8 years old, and looked to me like a high-performance version of that particular model. It seemed the end of the event as far as I was concerned. That episode was over.
To get my
I wanted to escape as quickly as I could. I knew I'd be better in the open, letting people hear me shout for help, than shut in this room, nobody to hear me.
I saw this elderly, obviously dishevelled, worried-looking lady waving. To be honest, I was having such a day. Oh, I don't need this.
I'll just pull over. I'll be with you in a minute.
And when you heard the words, please, help me, please, can't do nothing but help.
There's a burglar in my house.
A burglar?
Knocking
All right,
me
well,
about, pushing me around.
Calm down. Look. Come on, let's go and have a look. Let's go and...
Tore the wire from my oven.
All right.
He's still in there.
All right.
She was just couldn't get her act together. But once she started saying there's somebody in my house knocking me about, then she looked like a victim. It just doesn't seem right that she should feel vulnerable or not want to be in her own house. It's her territory, isn't it?
You're all right. You're all right, darling. So just come on. Okay. So you're in here?
Yes, be careful, be careful. He's got a knife.
Have you got anything heavy?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Look, it'll be all right. You stay here. Phone the police.
Shall I dial 999?
Yes, 999. I'll go and have a look. Be all right.
Yes.
There was a mixture of indignation and annoyance and fear at the same time. So each room I went into, I became more and more aware that I've got to be careful. It dawned on me that I was on my own. I wouldn't be able to get any help from her. So that's when I reached for the frying pan.
Not even all through the air raids in London have I ever been as frightened as the day he threatened me with that knife.
It's okay. Be all right. Oh, they're here. Hold on, let him in. All right. Hello, what's happened? Hello, yeah.
For all the trouble he took in what he did to me and threatening me and all that, all he gained was £20. And to him, that must have seemed nothing.
So sad and so insane. As the victim said, she never had anything much to steal in the first place. Remember the clues? He had a London accent, in his late 20s, 6 foot tall, with very short fair hair. And 6 weeks ago, he had a silver hatchback, possibly a Honda Civic or Honda Accord. Let's find him tonight. 0500 600 600 is the free call number here, or ring 01273 665 564. That's 01273 665 564. Now here's Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
Two men, both identifiable from video. They seriously injured someone just for fun. This is Birkenhead. It's Argyle Street on Friday night at the end of January. Look at the bottom right. The victim was simply minding his own business. They broke his jaw and caused injuries that will stay with him for life. This is the man that started it. He looks in his mid-20s, medium build, with short, dark, receding hair, and a good deal shorter than this man who put the boot into the victim lying on the floor. He's around 6 foot tall, stocky build, with cropped light brown hair. Call us now on 0500 600 600 or 0151 777 2259. That's Liverpool, 777 2259. Now to Bristol, where pubs have been taking extra security measures after the murder last month of this publican, John Fitzgerald. He was found battered to death after what appears to have been a burglary. We're keen to speak to this man, Michael Eifinger, who used to work at the Richmond Spring pub in Clifton, where the murder took place. Mr. Eifinger has a strong German accent and indeed might be in Germany. Was this him getting onto a ferry at Ramsgate in Kent, going to Ostend on Saturday the 21st of February? Or in fact, if it was you, or you can help in any way, call 0500 600 600 or the Murder Inquiry Room, direct on 0117 945 4350. That's Bristol, 945 4350. And there's a £10,000 reward to find John Fitzgerald's killer.
Next, we're seeking 4, possibly 5 men who may be able to help solve a murder. Tracy Wilde was 21. She was a single mum in Glasgow and had a difficult and unhappy childhood. She wanted desperately to have a normal family life. 2 years ago, she found heroin, eased her sense of hopelessness. She struggled with addiction, and to feed her habit, she turned to prostitution.
She probably wasn't what people would imagine a drug user would be, so she had all these problems. But yet, she had plans for the future. She could see herself, and she was thinking about her daughter and her. She just had to deal with her drug problem to begin with. She was the least likely client I've ever had that I thought would get into prostitution. I just didn't think that would ever happen.
Tracy lived at 17 Torryburn Road in the Barmulloch area of Glasgow.
Tracy, when she was certainly getting ready actually to go out and prostitute, you would think she was going out for a date. You know, she was very much clothes laid out in the bed, getting ready, washing her hair, having a bath, all that stuff. It was almost as if she was getting ready to go out to a club. You know, she wore quite trendy clothes, and she probably looked as if she was going out to meet friends and to go out dancing or something like that. She just looked like a typical 21-year-old that was interested in fashion.
It'll be a dull, overcast and wet night.
Tracy's flat was a 5 to 10 minute drive from the city centre, and most nights she'd take a cab. It rained on and off throughout that Sunday night. Tracy worked in one of the city's red light districts, known locally as the Drag. Her patch was the corner of Bothwell and Wellington Street.
All right, Tracy. Hi. How you doing? All right. You still looking for a brolly? Well, I'll lend you my spare if you want.
But I'll look after it, you know I will.
Well, I want it back. I don't lend out my gear.
Cheers.
In the few weeks before she died, Tracy had started taking men back to her flat in Torryburn Road.
I was sitting up doing paperwork, and when I heard the car stop, I went over to the window because I thought it was my brother-in-law. I seen Tracy coming out of a car with a man. He was all dressed in black clothes. He was of medium build, dark hair. I'm either dark brown or black. He was smart in appearance and clean cut, clean shaven. He definitely wasn't any of the people that I'd ever seen Tracy with.
This is a man who must be found. He can be easily eliminated, and police guarantee discretion. Maybe he gave Tracy a lift back across town to West Street. This is inside the centre where Tracy came regularly for new syringes and condoms.
Hi there, what's your name? Tracy Wilde. Do I come through?
I think I really remembered Tracy just for the overall feeling of sadness that she had. She appeared unhappy with her life that had passed, and was very keen for things to change for her in the future.
I need 401ml needles and 1 2ml and some condoms. Okay.
I just felt really upset for Tracy.
Oh, you've got a kid? A wee lassie. She's 3. She's a wee darling. Oh, she's gorgeous. She's not living with me right now. She's up the road with family. I don't want her to get involved in any of this, so she's better off up there. So you want to stay at home?
No, I'm off to work for a wee while.
Right, well, take care, okay? Okay, right, bye.
Tracy obviously really loved her daughter a lot and was very keen for things to work out for her daughter. I think long term she would like to have had lots of time to spend with her daughter.
Outside, a man waiting for friends remembers Tracy walking towards what he thought was a blue car. Did it belong to the man from her flat? Seven minutes later, Tracy was back in the Drag. She walked alone along Waterloo Street and into Wellington Street. At the same time, this man was recorded around the corner heading in Tracy's direction. 2 minutes later, a man was running along Waterloo Street. Could this have been you? Tracy was next seen with a client heading down Bothwell Lane off Wellington Street.
Minutes after that, another man was recorded walking up and down past the end of Bothwell Lane. He'd been spotted frequently around the drag that night, but he was never seen approaching any of the girls. Police would like to trace him as he's a vital witness. Soon afterwards, Tracy came back with her client. Unusually, the man now had his arm around her. Was she going voluntarily? This is the last recording of Tracy. At about 5:30 the next evening, Tracy's drugs worker called round to Torryburn Road.
Tracy used to attend a women's group on a Monday night, so we had went just as usual to pick her up. The flat was in darkness, so we actually had thought she wasn't in. The veranda door was open, which was a bit strange given that it was a very cold November night.
Also, her bedroom curtains were closed. She never normally shut them. Soon after, she was found dead in her flat.
People forget, you know, they're saying prostitute and drug user. She was a mother. You know, she's got a wee 3-year-old. It's a waste of a life. You know, she had so much to give. She was such... you know, even given all her background and all the problems she had, you know, she was the one who would want to help other people. It was amazing.
Well, a very tragic and poignant case. DCI John Sherry, not long ago, we were appealing for information on the murder of another prostitute in the same area of Glasgow. I think, what, there have been 6, roughly, in as many years. Is there any link between them all?
No, we have examined every one of them and researched every one to see if there is any link, and there is no link between any of the deaths.
So let's go back to some of the footage we saw. The last man seen with Tracy, he is significant, obviously, in your book.
Yes, it's very important that this man comes forward. If he does come forward, he can be easily eliminated from a simple DNA test, and I would ask him to come forward.
Now, Tracy was murdered in her flat, you know that. So how did she get there that night, do you believe?
Well, we do not know how Tracy got to her flat that night. Normally she would arrive home either by taxi or in a client's car, but on that occasion we just do not know.
Was anything missing from her flat?
Yes, we have discovered that a black rucksack which Tracy was wearing going home that night, very similar to this one, is still missing from her flat.
Now, apart from the men that we saw in the film, is there anyone else that you want to trace tonight?
Yes, there's a chap who was seen leaving the Archaeus discotheque on Queen Street in Glasgow around about 3 AM. Now, this man may be completely unconnected with the matter, but he's similar in appearance to a person we'd like to trace.
Now, I know you've done an offender profile of the attacker, or the murderer. What sort of person is he?
Yes, he's an impulsive person, very selfish, and likes to be in control, particularly of his relationships with women. He will probably be watching this programme tonight, and he will be feeling some remorse, particularly in view of the fact that he's left Tracy's daughter without a mother.
That's right. I mean, how is she? She's only 3 years old. How is she bearing up?
Yeah, as you say, she is only 3 years old. She's very upset, and she cannot understand why she constantly sees her mum's photograph in newspapers and she can't see her in real life.
It's a very distressing story. Thank
Yes.
you very much, John Sherry. Well, please don't hesitate if you know who Tracy's killer was, if you think you know who this man might be. This is live through to the studio. The calls are free, as always, 0500 600 600, or the incident room on 0141 532 4262. That's Glasgow, 532 4262.
I have another offence that makes everybody's blood boil, so please don't hesitate if you know this man, Trevor Ernest Cause. He's wanted in connection with a series of con tricks on elderly women. He's 61, 5'10", with brown eyes and short dark hair. This is a rather dated picture, so we've created an artist's impression of how he may look now. He's usually smartly dressed, a heavy smoker, and he often stays in bed and breakfasts around the southern part of England. 0500 600 600 or 0181 556 8855. That's 0181 556 8855. And another man who's wanted for deceptions, a long series of them. His real name is Mohammed Rafiq, and he comes from Richmond in Surrey, though his family say they don't know where he is. He could be driving a black Saab convertible with the registration N86COE. He's wanted by 3 police forces, and there's a bankruptcy warrant out for him, so I wouldn't lend him money. And watch out for him if you're a cashier in a building society, bank or casino. 0500 600 600 or British Transport Police on 0171 387 0354. That's 0171 387 0354.
So far tonight, the phones haven't been as frantically busy as last night. We've had a very, very quick and big response to the Glide attacks. That's the attacks on the little children on the southern eastern region of on the trains. 71 calls here, about 140 so far. About half of them produce some very interesting leads, all converging on one thing. It could be coincidence, but it's got to be checked out. 2 people given the same name, and 2 people so upset about the Willingdean aggravated burglary on the old lady, they've offered to put up rewards. We'll tell you more about that later. There have been 19 arrests on Crimewatch cases since last month's programme. Though 12, it must be said, are all from one crime, an armed robbery, and even then not directly because of information that came in through the programme. But it was a reconstruction, you might recall, a ram-raiding attack on a supermarket in Edinburgh. Another man's been arrested after a series of sex attacks on school children on Rillsdale Common in Surrey, and he's now awaiting trial. And a direct result, a shopkeeper in Plymouth was in a coma. It was thought that she'd fallen or fallen ill until her son looked at the security video and found she'd been attacked in the course of a robbery. 2 viewers named a man who's now been arrested pending further inquiries.
9 months ago, Crimewatch reconstructed attacks on women which had taken place over a number of years. They involved abduction and very serious sex assaults. Police mounted a combined operation called Operation Lynx, led by an Assistant Chief Constable. As you may have seen yesterday, a man was charged with kidnap, with rape, robbery and indecent assault. We can't say more tonight because we mustn't prejudice his trial, and he's due to appear in court on Friday. There was an electric atmosphere in the studio last month as on case after case, viewers seemed to converge on the same names. On one case, 18 people called in and named the same man. Inquiries are progressing on all the cases featured in last month's reconstructions. And the day after the programme, a passing policeman saw one of our wanted men and arrested him.
If you've ever been a victim of car crime, you'll want to help find this man. He's smiling while using someone else's credit card. The card had been stolen in Cambridge, where a car's windows were smashed while the owner was at work. This picture was taken last September. Who is this young man who's repeatedly trying to get cash and looking so pleased with himself? He's mid-20s, short dark hair. 0500 600 600 or Cambridge Police on 01223 358 966. That's Cambridge 358 966. Now, an unmissable picture. If you know this man, you couldn't fail to recognise him. He's in a bank in Guildford, Surrey, and has a credit card that's just been stolen from someone's wallet at the nearby university. He's trying to rifle the victim's bank account. This man's in his late 30s with reddish-brown hair and a ruddy complexion. If you know him, you might not have thought of him as a crook until now. Do tell us who he is and where he is tonight. 0500 600 600 or 01483 531 111. That's Guildford 531 111.
You may remember a reconstruction from October last year, the attack on an elderly man, George Dean, as he did his washing in a laundrette in Kilburn in North London. 3 eyewitnesses helped us tell the story.
Get off! The 2 men on the floor, the younger one on top and the older one on the floor.
Mum, I'm going to have to go. I think there's a fight.
Get off!
Quick! There's a fight in the laundrette.
So I thought I could go and stop a fight. So I walked to the laundrette to find out what was happening. And as I got to the window of the laundrette, a guy came out of the laundrette, knife in hand. As I dropped my hands, he ran.
He just come out of nowhere. He was that close, I could have just put my foot out and he would have went over. But at the time, I didn't know that he'd done anything. So I felt anger and sadness to know that that's where we come to die.
Well, several Crimewatch viewers called. 2 crucial witnesses were identified, and some of the leads are still being followed up. But now, take a look at this. This is washing that was left in the laundrette on the day of the murder, and no one has come to claim it since. There's children's clothing here for a boy or boys aged somewhere between 8 and 12, and perhaps also for about a 3-year-old as well. And this is for an adult male. It's extra large. It's a T-shirt, size 30. There we are. We have 2 here, actually, quite distinctive logos on both of them. Trousers, distinctive again, with a size 36-inch waist. So do you recognise anything? Notice also this brightly coloured T-shirt and those little small trousers down there as well. and also these rather distinctive stripy shorts. Was all this left by someone completely unconnected with the crime, or can you link any of this stuff with this man? Now, this is the e-fit compiled by a witness to the stabbing. 0500 600 600 or 0181 358 1753. That's 0181 358 1753, and there is a £5,000 reward involved.
Now, a stream of offences that, taken together, are coming to represent a serious threat. And it's not as though it's happening in a well-known crime hotspot. These are attacks in a community in Sussex where serious crime is unusual and clear-up rates are pretty high. Perhaps one man, or perhaps a whole gang, has been causing trouble in Haywards Heath.
Give me the money!
Take it, just take it.
Just the notes!
I remember thinking, oh God, because as soon as I saw him, I realised what his intentions were. Just to see a pair of eyes, you know, no expression to read. You don't know what you're dealing with or who you're dealing with. It's just horrifying.
The first crime in the sequence was on a Sunday evening in November, in the centre of Haywards Heath, close by the railway station.
Very aggressive, and he had a knife.
OK, yeah. Could you describe him for me?
He was about 18, 22 maybe, slim, probably about 5'5" tall,
great.
and he had a northern accent as well.
OK.
45 minutes later, just across the road, two drivers were waiting at the station cab rank.
Bad night last night? It's just so quiet. It's that time of year, isn't it?
I was chatting away to my colleague and I suddenly noticed this bloke and he was acting very suspicious. When he ran up to my colleague's car and jumped straight in the front seat, you know, you don't expect that kind of behaviour. Normally they say, you know, is the car free?
Take it, that's mine. See you later. All right, mate.
How much the Crawley?
Well, it's normally about £15. But, do it for a tenner.
I missed my train. Didn't you see me running?
Oh, right, nah. Yeah. That's right. Cheers.
Sometime later I heard that there'd been a robbery at Elite and I put two and two together and I just actually presumed that my colleague had took this guy in the car by the way he was behaving.
So you working at the moment?
Yeah, I'm a self-employed roofer. I'm working in Haywards Heath.
But you live local?
I live in Hawley.
Why Crawley then? Wouldn't it be easy for me to drop you off at Three Bridges? You can pick up a train from there.
Yeah, all right.
49.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
You 49? Well, it's just for insurance purposes, mate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, 49, yeah. Change of plan. Dropping off at Three Bridges instead of Crawley, over.
Thank you, 49.
Just in case I get another fare, mate.
As the journey went on, he started to get more and more nervous, and I thought, oops, I've made a mistake, I'm in trouble. I'm sure he was, you know, a druggie or very tired because his eyes were very dark-socketed and very slitty. He started to get more and more nervous, and I thought, well, he's building up, he's going to do something here, he's going to knock me on the head and run.
The police are everywhere tonight.
Yeah, they seem to pull you up for anything nowadays.
I described the man as 5'6", 5'7" in height, mid to mid-20s, pretty scruffy looking, a lot of stubble. I think he had reddish or brown hair, perhaps a northern accent, some sort of accent.
See, I've been doing all sorts of hours doing this sort of lark, I tell you. A nightmare. Seems like you got to work all night.
It did make me feel very vulnerable as a taxi driver. I must admit, it made me think twice about whether I want to carry on with this occupation. At the end of the day, it probably only happened once in my lifetime as a cabbie. It's happened and I got out of it, so I was lucky. He got out of the car so quick that I just thought, oh, thank God for that car.
5 days later, back in Haywards Heath.
It was like the last hour of my shift and I was just getting ready to cash up. I'd heard about the robberies and I didn't think we'd be done.
I want the video.
I don't know how to work it.
Give me the flags and the money.
It's one of the risks, you know, you're handling with money, and it was about Christmas time, people get desperate.
Yeah, what sort of fags do you want?
Benson and Hedges.
He was about average height, really, and he was quite slim, although he had a big puffer jacket on.
Put them in a bag.
Although he had clear English, it sounded ethnic.
Eight days later, in Lewis Road, on the edge of Haywards Heath. This time, the robbery was foiled, and nothing happened then for over a month. But the attacks resumed soon after Christmas. First, at an off-licence in Sydney Road on a Wednesday evening in January. And then the only daylight raid on Sunday, January the 18th.
I've been living here for 12 years. Generally looking, the town is a nice town with nice people, and usually don't have many problems in Haywards Heath.
Give me the money. Give me the money. What? Give me the money.
Initially, I was in a terrible shock. Sometime at night, you think about it, what had happened and what could have happened. And when the same time came up next Sunday again, you just, for a minute, you think about it, and you thank God that he didn't anything damaging to you.
You see a man running by?
Yeah, he went up that way.
He just tried to rob me.
Really?
We were travelling down Sydney Road when I saw two men on a bike. My impression was it was a red mountain bike. And I pointed to my wife and said, "But that man's strange haircut." In taking a second look, I noticed that it wasn't a haircut, but the man had a stocking over his face.
Presumably, the two with the bike made their way towards Clare Park. But sometime later, a red mountain bike was found abandoned at a cemetery off Western Road.
We'll come to the bike in a moment, but Matt Mears, tell us first about this clothing that was dumped.
Well, with the items that we found include this black flying jacket, as you can see, with an identifiable label. We've also got a rip in the right sleeve, that's on the inside of the arm. We've also got two ski-type gloves, gauntlets that were found.
They're quite small, those gauntlets.
Yes, the person we're looking for is about 5'5" to 5'6", so that would go along with that.
Quite distinctively small for a man.
Very much so. We've also got this jacket top here, as you can see. It's had the sleeves cut off, but it's also got the identifiable Giorgio logo on it. Again, and the last item we have got is this purple V-neck jacket top, and as you can see again, it's got the identifiable label on it.
The best clue, of course, you've got is the e-fit from the taxi drivers.
That's
that
right.
man could, of course, be quite unconnected with these crimes.
Well, we can't be 100% certain that is the person, but the two taxi drivers were concerned enough with his behaviour for them to contact us. And we would like to speak to him, if only to eliminate him from our inquiries.
A couple of witnesses we saw in the reconstruction still need to be traced. One at Three Bridges Station. When the taxi arrived, the man seemed to go up to a woman and asked her for direction. She's not come forward.
No, we would like to speak to that woman just to see what was said from the man. It might give us an identification of where he went.
And the other one?
The other one was a woman in a laundrette. It was near the newsagents in Haywards Heath, and she actually spoke to the man from the newsagents and saw the people run past the window.
Right, these offences were between November and January in Haywards Heath.
Right,
Now, the significance of the red bike, tell us about the getaway bike, or the bike that was dumped.
We have found a red bike. We have no reports of any stolen or lost bikes in the area, so we'd like to know whose it is to see if it was part of these raids.
OK, thank you very much. 0500 600 600. If you've any idea, please help us right away. There are other people waiting to hear from you on 01 444 445 846. That's Haywards Heath, 445 846.
Last October, a man walked into a pawnbroker's and used a stolen credit card to buy some jewellery. In fact, the card came from a burglary. As you can see, his hair is quite distinctive, with short dreadlocks and shaved sides. He's mid to late 20s, roughly 5'10", with scars on the middle finger of his left hand, which he used as the reason for his poor signature. Call us if you know him on 0500 600 600 or 0171 421 0500. That's 0171 421 0500. And you may have seen this man. He's Mark Anthony Dodds. He escaped from Exeter Prison last October, where he was awaiting trial. He tends to talk a lot about religion, but despite this, there's a warrant out for his arrest on a charge of burglary. When he disappeared last year, he had a ponytail and a short cropped beard. He also has an array of tattoos, including a tiger's head and an Indian warrior's skull on his right arm. He may turn nasty, so don't approach him, but do please tell us where he is on 0500 600 600 or 01392 451 659. That's Exeter 451 659.
And talking of religion, it's not often priests get onto Crimewatch, but tonight is the night. Police want to question this man, Father Seamus Heatherton. He was the parish priest for Swanley in North Kent, but he has disappeared, and so has over £100,000 of church funds. He's 67, he's 5'9", with white hair and a strong Irish accent. He phoned his solicitor and said he was calling from Australia, but police don't believe that. He could be anywhere in Britain, or maybe he's gone back to the Republic of Ireland where he was born. 0500 600 600 or call the police on 01622 654 321. That's Maidstone 654 321. And a brief look at the calls that have been coming in so far. Many calls on the robbery involving that dear lady in Woodingdean in Sussex. One person from Shropshire, a lady from Shropshire, has called to offer a £500 reward because she says it could have been her. She feels as vulnerable. And a man from Somerset has offered a reward of £5,000. 6 calls on the Tracy Wilde murder.
Our lines are open here in the studio for well over an hour and a half yet. We'll be taking calls until midnight. And you'll see other numbers in a moment, which are also listed incidentally on CFAX on page 621. If you've email, you can reach us at Crimewatch UK at the BBC. There it is, cwuk@bbc.co.uk. All information on those appeals, of course, will be sent straight on to the police. And if you've information on any crime, you can try Crime Stoppers, and you can call them anonymously if you want on 0800 555 111.
We'll have more news in Crimewatch Update later on tonight. Because of the Oscars, it'll be after midnight, though, at 12:15. If you can't stay up that late, do join us next month, Tuesday, April the 21st.
Calls to Crimewatch work, and for all the unpleasantness we've shown, there's a great deal of goodwill out there. Thousands of people are trying to help, so don't have nightmares. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.